Hey there, welcome back guys. My name is Katie. If you are new here, I am finishing up my clinical work as a therapist and I'm also a neuroscientist. So this is going to be another installment of my new series on IGTV called Mindful Monday. Let me know in a comment below, like if you guys have a certain topic that you guys want to talk about, or if there's someone that you know that you think could really benefit from this. This week we're going to be talking a little bit about like being ghosted in relationships. I have a lot of clients that have been going through this lately, and this has happened to me in the past where really you are in a relationship with someone you really care about, things are going well, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, like you think things are going well, you guys are in love, whatever, they just say that they're not feeling it anymore, or they're not into the relationship, or they don't. So many people that go through this, and having gone through it personally, I understand just how devastating this can feel. You literally like don't know where it's come from, you don't know what you could have done differently, and I really just wanted to kind of like go over why this happens and really just the perspective on how to recover immediately when this does happen to you. So this could be a friendship, this could be a relationship. Usually we see it in dating relationships, and like your boyfriend out of nowhere sends you a work email message that says like, hey, I'm just not feeling it anymore, like I'm moving on. Or he blocks you on social media and sends you a Snapchat that he is like over it, whatever. You see it a lot like in transition, and whether that's going away to college or that's moving to a different state after grad school, it just happens a lot when college relationships end, things like that. So if this is happening, understand really just how confusing this can feel. So often people do this, like why did they do this? I have so many clients that come in and they say, why did he do this to me? Or like, why doesn't he love me anymore? Well, you know, it's not necessarily that all of the feelings that he felt or that she felt disappeared instantly. They did it this way because they don't want to see the consequences of their actions. So if they were to actually have a mature meeting with you, break up with you, call you on the phone, there would be consequences to that. There would be a reaction. And so basically it's kind of a power play, and they want to, you know, do something and not have to deal with the end result of that like action. So they don't want to see you in pain. They don't want to see you cry. They don't want to hear whatever you have to say. When you're in a healthy adult mature relationship, there is no power play in the relationship. There's no person that's in control of over the relationship. It's actually two people that, you know, mutually share the strength and power in that relationship together evenly. And so often the person kind of ghosts you this way, breaks up with you this way, because they often aren't in touch with and can't handle their own emotions, so they don't want any of yours. They don't want to handle you being upset, you having any opinion really about this, and so that's like a huge part of why they do this. They're trying to distance themselves from it. You're trying to get closure, but they want to have nothing to do with that, and that's because they don't care and they're not mature, because what mature person handles breakups this way? And the biggest thing to remember through all of this is there are some prominent psychologists out there on Instagram that I actually really disagree with like the way they recommend handling this kind of thing. They recommend like reaching out and getting your closure and contacting them and saying that like, oh, well, everyone reads things anyways, even if they say they didn't see it. That really isn't like a long-term solution. So often when this happens, you feel devastated. Like literally, I describe it as like a grief type feeling. You go from this person being your best friend, from being your whole world, your soulmate, whatever, you having this whole future life plan with them, to them being not even in your life. Like it's like they're gone, like they're dead, literally, because you can't talk to them, you can't text them, call them, whatever. If they were the person you checked in with at the end of the day, like you can't check in with them. And so it's really just like a wild feeling in that regard. But often it is the way that we deal with this that determines our future moving forward. And I say that because either you can wallow in it or you can use this to be something that builds up your strength, your self-worth, and your resilience. You may not feel strong, but we are so perseverant and resilient. Look back on your past track record, and you may not feel strong all the time, but you have continued to keep going. And so really, I think it comes down to identifying integrity. So you're frustrated by this because you're a person of integrity. You're a person that's upfront, that's been honest, that's been sharing their feelings in their heart. When you said, I love you yesterday, you didn't wake up thinking that you weren't going to love that person today. And clearly that wasn't the case. If you feel blindsided by them, they don't have that same level of integrity. And as much as you still love that person, like you probably hate them a little bit. And really, like, the way that you end things has a lot to do with your integrity. So if you would never have ended it this way, that probably means you're a person of integrity. If they felt fine ending it this way, they probably lack integrity, and therefore you can't expect them to display integrity in other areas of this relationship, whether that is giving you closure, whether that's recognizing that you have emotions that deserve to be heard. And so that whole like idea of, send them some final email or call them or insist on meeting with them, I don't really think I support that. And I say this because will that really give you closure? Like that whole, I know I'll send it and they'll read it even if they say they don't know, because your worth is not defined by that person. And this is where, for me, it's a larger issue than just this being blindsided by the breakup. You have worth that is independent of this person. Identity is not wrapped up in who they are, even if they are woven into every fiber of your current self, and you feel destroyed by the fact that they have just blindsided you. Like, your identity stands on its own. And so because of that, I don't really feel like sending them this long message is part of closure. Instead, I'm not leaving you hanging. Instead, what I would suggest is write something out. Write out a letter to them, or, record a voice memo, or write out a poem, grieve, sing a song, find your ballad, and write out all those thoughts and feelings. I have my clients journal it, or write a poem, or we write a song, or we just kind of have a moment and cry together. And really, then you don't do anything with that. You can write it in email and save it in draft. You can write it in your notes. Say don't send it, because that person couldn't even respect you enough as a human being to give you closure in your relationship, to respect that there were two people. A relationship involves two people. Fights involve two people. Communication involves two people, unless you have like multiple personality disorder, which would be a whole nother facet of this. But they didn't even respect you enough to recognize that you have a brain, a heart, emotions, and like a soul that craves companionship, community, relationship, that would have any say in this. They just absolutely decided for both of you. So tell me this, why does that person deserve your final thoughts on this situation? They don't, because if they cared enough to hear them in the first place, they wouldn't have broken up with you this way. And so that's why I often tell my clients to write it down, talk it out, share it via voice memo. But don't say you can be at peace with your feelings and meditate on that and have that without it getting tainted again by that person. So by sending it to them, you would really then again be putting that ball in their court to determine your worth, your feelings about this. Let's say they respond with something horrible or snarky, or they get defensive, because that's usually what's going to happen. If they were a person with integrity, it wouldn't have happened this way. Then the ball's going to be thrown right back at you, and all of those thoughts that you worked through, now you're going to be feeling shame because they got defensive, and you're going to feel like you need to defend the fact that you have emotions like a normal human being, and you felt blindsided and you stuck up for yourself and you had self-worth. You don't need that person and their feedback to determine your self-worth moving forward. And the other side of this is, like, I am a Christian, and my big part of this from a faith perspective is there's a verse and it says, the Lord your God will fight for you. You need only to be still. And it really kind of encompasses the mentality we should have going into this. I think a lot of people feel like they need to reach out and send this like breakup message back or this long email to convict that person so they never do it to someone again, so that they don't act like this crappy human like ever to another woman or do this to another girl, you're not gonna convict them. It is something internal. If you're a Christian, it's a Holy Spirit. If you're not a Christian, like there's absolutely a conscience in people, wherever that comes from, whatever religion or spirituality you align with, and that conscience convicts people. And it will often be looking back on the good parts of your relationship and not the ending. Remember, the way you end things determines your integrity and has a lot. And down deep in like the darkest fibers of their being, they will remember the way they handled this when they are being convicted and when that is triggered in them. If they were able to be convicted in this moment and they had the potential for growth right now to see their wrongdoings, they probably wouldn't have acted this way in this moment and handled this way. So this little talk was a little bit about how to handle being blindsided in a relationship. It's part of a very long process I have on getting people back on their feet, regaining their autonomy and self-worth. But it also applies to like relationships as well. And if you're in a relationship and the way that you handle arguments and whether you snap back right away and need to win the argument and get that upper hand, or if maybe you think out your thoughts and you come at it from a place of grace. And that's really this whole, literally just embodying grace in the way that you write that letter and choose to respond. If you choose to respond, which I don't recommend, but you can do whatever you want, or the way that you deal with arguments in your own home or with your significant other. Like, as long as grace kind of exudes through that whole thing, I promise you that you will have the upper hand. And I say this, I'll leave you with a quote in parting, and it says, "How powerful is it to remain quiet when someone expects you to be enraged?" I love this, especially for situations like this, because often these people will provoke you and they'll expect this, blown up response or this angry response or this confused and misunderstood response. And, this kind of move is a power move, but the most powerful thing you can do in response is move forward, develop your own identity, and live a life of fullness and authenticity. Encourages you if you are going through a difficult time, and remember that you will make it out the other side. Look at your track record of perseverance. You will keep going, and you've got this.